Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Golic and Wingo with you on a Thursday morning, ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And why are we playing the hit from the then New Zealand teenager Lords? Because in the last hour, as we're presented by Progressive Insurance, and all phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, you said you would only go to the royal wedding if you could be one of the royals.
Well, it's one of the loaded questions. Would I rather play on Family Feud or go to the royal wedding?
Yeah.
And we love the Family Feud. It's going to be the Golic and Wingo show against the Levitard show at some point. But also the Golic family, we want to be on Family Feud as well because we all love it. My wife has betrayed us. She texted me and said she'd be at the royal wedding.
Yeah.
So she's gone. She's out.
But you would only go...
I would only go if I was treated like a royal.
Yeah.
If I'm one of the royals, if I get royal status in this, then I may think long and hard about going to that over playing Family Feud.
Now, I love you.
Yeah.
I'm with you. We've been together for a long time before we were together on the radio show.
Yes.
I don't like your chances of getting royal status.
Really?
I don't. In fact, we should put it up on Golic and Wingo. What odds do you give Golic to become and have royal status at the royal wedding? I'd like to see what the people... Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will rally around you and we'll get this going. And we can send you over there. But I gotta be honest with you.
Complete royal status.
Yeah, like you
everything.
You're right there with the family. You are in the family.
Prince Mike.
Prince, no, not Prince Mike. You would be the Duke
Lord
of Gargantuan.
Well,
there you go.
New porn name.
There you go. The Duke of Gargantuan would be your name. So if we can get that, maybe, look, if the people speak on your behalf, we'll try.
Yeah.
So we'll put it out there on Golic and Wingo. Should Mike Golic receive royal status?
You got a day and a half because the wedding is like,
Well, Twitter polls are instantaneous, so we'll figure it out. All right, let's do a little What's Trending. And what's trending is the Rockets in the right direction. Beat the Warriors 127-105 by handing Golden State its fourth worst playoff loss under Steve Kerr. But here's the amazing thing, Mike. They basically did what they did in Game 1. They just did it better.
They did. Listen, the stats were basically the same on ISOs and assists and passes and the whole deal. The difference was they spread it out more. It wasn't James Harden just an ISO. It was a lot of other guys, and they were finding open players, and players were knocking down shots. That was the biggest difference of this game.
Yep.
And Houston's a team that needs other players to knock down shots, so everything isn't on James Harden, much like Cleveland does, because everything can't be on LeBron all the time. And when the others show up, and in Houston, they did it way more consistently, obviously, than Cleveland. That's why they won 65 games and why they were the number one seed, and it showed up last night. And quite honestly, Golden State stuck to their MO a little bit of getting out ahead of themselves a bit, getting a big win in Houston in Game 1, kind of settling a little bit, feeling good about themselves. Next thing you know, 7 turnovers in the first quarter, 11 turnovers in the half, 15 turnovers for the game, playing out of character a little bit. Steph Curry not shooting well for the second game in a row now, and they're really kind of picking on him on defense.
Well, they are, and we'll get into that a little bit later if there's some concerns about Steph Curry's health. He says he's fine. Other people are wondering if he's not 100% ready to go, because when he's right, the offense, no matter who scores, the offense goes through Steph Curry. Well, we know who the bronze medalist is going to be. It's just gold and silver here. Houston's James Harden, Cleveland's LeBron James, and Pelicans' Anthony Davis are the finalists for the NBA's MVP award. Philadelphia's Ben Simmons, Utah's Donovan Mitchell, and Boston's Jason Tatum, English Trey Speakett, are the finalists for the Rookie of the Year award, which will be announced June 25th in a televised award show in Los Angeles.
What's interesting is, if you remember, this is all regular season, and the regular season seems so long ago. If you included playoffs, how about what Anthony Davis did in the playoffs before they were ousted? And how about what Jason Tatum is continuing to do for the Celtics compared to the other rookies, Ben Simmons and Donovan Mitchell, both who are out at this point. The 3 finalists most improved: Victor Oladipo, Clint Capella, and Spencer Dinwiddie. 6th man is Eric Gordon, Lou Williams, or Fred VanVleet. Coach of the Year, Brad Stevens, Quinn Snyder, or Dwayne Casey. Defensive Player of the Year is Anthony Davis, Joel Embiid, Rudy Gobert. Again, end of June, you'll get that in their award show, which I dig these pro sports doing the award shows. I think it's a pretty cool thing.
But again, look, Anthony Davis has played great. However, he's the bronze medalist here. There's no question about that. It's going to be between James Harden and LeBron James for the MVP. And Mike, then there's this.
Yeah.
And anybody's watched the last couple Olympics has seen what an amazing swimmer Katie Ledecky is. And she continues to just literally destroy the competition.
We're not going to say how.
No, I'm not going to say it.
Okay.
At her pro debut.
Right.
She won a big event.
Incredible. So right now I want you guys to start the 50-second clock on me.
Go.
All right, 50 seconds. Here we go. Katie Ledecky, again, turned pro. She was at Stanford last year, her one collegiate year, and you wondered how long she was going to stay there before she turned pro. She is quite, just right now, easily the most dominating swimmer, man or woman, on the face of the earth. Right now, she is the world record holder in the 400, 800, and 1,500 meter swim. She's also the world record holder, fastest swimmer in the women's 500, 1,000, and 1,650 yard event. Yards are different than the meters. It's the long pool, the 50-meter pool. In the Olympics that we play for. 2013 World Championship, 4 gold. 2014 Pan Pacific, 5 gold. 2015 World Championship, 5 gold. Olympic, 4 gold. It's ridiculous what she has done in this. She was a swimmer of the year in 2010. That's 50 seconds?
Yeah.
That's unbelievable. Okay, from the time I started talking about her to that buzzer, when I started talking, that's when she hit the wall. In her last race, when the buzzer went, that's when the next person hit the wall.
She beat him by 50
seconds. She beat her world record yet again in the 1,500 meter by 5 seconds. Second place was 50 seconds behind her. She owns the top 8 fastest times in this race ever. It was her 14th career world record swim. Ridiculous. Swim of the year, as I said, 13, 14, 15, 16. Associated Press Female Athlete of the Year in 2017. Ridiculous what she's doing. She's just 21 years old.
That's like winning a marathon by 5 minutes. I mean, it's what we're talking about here.
Stunning. Not that she's winning, but the amount. Now, Michael Phelps and what he's done is going to go down as the greatest ever with the golds and everything and the different events that he has swum. She has obviously more time to accumulate a lot more golds, but the way she is winning, the domination that she is doing it by has been incredible. Unfortunately, because of the rules, her turning pro and now being able to get money for swimming, which she has every right to do, she can't swim collegiately anymore, so you won't see her swimming at Stanford just for Team USA.
You will see her and winning for Team USA
yes, you
going
will.
forward.
Yes, you will.
All right, Golic and Wingo presented by 1-800-Flowers.com. Life's special events call for a beautiful bouquet from 1-800-Flowers.com. Right now, when you order a dozen Gabura daisies starting at $29.99, you also get a free vase. For details, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. And you know what? We should send some flowers to our good friend Stugotz from the Dan Le Batard Show, who joins us now as he does every Thursday. Stu, welcome. First of all, I was listening the other day, and despite a 40-point triple-double from LeBron James, you believe LeBron James shares a big part of the blame for the loss in Game 2 to Boston.
Yeah, good morning, guys, and very impressive swim breakdown there by Mike Golic. Very impressive.
Forever.
Mike Golic knows more. It's incredible. I mean, he knows more about Ledecky than I know about anything. I mean, that was amazing, Mike. I'm very impressed. Guys, you have to, LeBron has to share in some of the blame because he was great offensively. He's always great offensively. I think he can give you that stat line basically any time that he wants to give you that stat line. But defensively, and I'm not just talking about the second half, because I know everyone's criticizing the Cavs defense and LeBron and the way he played defense in the second half. For me, it went to the first half. It started right there. And the end of that first half with those last 2 possessions in which LeBron turned the ball over, complete disaster. But on defense, he was not moving. He was not sliding. He was not helping. He was allowing guys free lanes to the basket. It was really odd to see from a guy that we consider to be one of the greatest players of all time. But this is LeBron in his final season. Guys, you just left to wonder what's going through his head. You know, the lottery's right before the game. Is LeBron thinking, hey, I'm getting out of here. I'm not staying here. That draft pick's not high enough for us. You just don't know what he's thinking. And that's the mystery that surrounds LeBron James every time he's in a free agency year. But he certainly deserves a good portion of the blame for how poorly they played defensively. Because, guys, it starts at the top. If your best player, the guy who's carried you to this point, is going to play like that defensively, chances are Kyle Korver, J.R. Smith, Tristan Thompson, the rest of the team's going to play the same way. So it starts with LeBron James.
So first off, do you think he'll be in Cleveland next year? And if you do not, where do you think he will land?
I do not think he'll be in Cleveland next year. I think he's already made that decision. And so, listen, Brian Windhorst was on with us the other day. He got mad at me when I said that. For me, it's interesting. If you go back to when he left Cleveland the first time, all the stories were that LeBron James, Dwayne Wade, all those guys, they had those conversations 2 years in advance at the Olympic Games. And then when he left here in Miami, Stephen A. Smith came on the radio and told us that LeBron James had planned that exit for 2 years in advance. So I think his whole career has kind of been laid out by him and his friends, and they're great. Like, they keep it interesting. Everyone's always wondering where LeBron's going to go. But, guys, I don't think he's going to stay in Cleveland. I think if the Rockets don't win an NBA championship here, I can see him going to Houston, and I can see him going to Philadelphia. I think those are the two most likely teams.
Yeah,
Mike, do you think he's staying? Mike, do you think he's staying there?
No, I don't. I was one hanging on to think he was going to stay, hanging on to think he could still get him to the finals, but
right.
I don't see either one happening. Yeah, I do not see him staying in Cleveland. I don't think he feels he has a shot in Cleveland.
And the 8th pick in that draft
Mike,
probably doesn't help him.
Right, okay, but are you bailing on the series? Are you saying that this is it? Like, LeBron's done. The Cavs are done. Are you bailing on them and this series here?
Yeah, I am. I don't think they're going to come back and win this series. I just don't. I don't think, no matter what he does offensively, I don't think he's going to get enough help. They're way, way, way too inconsistent, I think, to get 4 wins in against a team that plays so well, that's so athletic, that's so long, not the greatest shooters in the world, but at times they shoot well, but they make up for it on the defensive side. They are just agitators on the defensive side. I don't think Cleveland can overcome it this time.
But also not as good on the road. Listen, here's the thing. Here's the tricky thing about LeBron James. And Boston not as good on the road. So, and the tricky thing and the funny thing about the NBA playoffs is it seems that like down 2-0, it seems impossible. But if they win game 3 at home and they blow out the Celtics, all of a sudden you're saying, okay, they're a home game away from being 2-2. Guys, here's the tricky thing about LeBron James, okay? Here's the funny thing about it. And it's the reason the LeBron and Jordan comparisons continue to exist, and they'll exist forever. Never at any point in his career did you question whether or not Michael Jordan was in a game or in a series and trying to win that game and trying to win that series. The fact that we have conversations and we look at the body language and we look at how he plays defense and we question whether or not he's going to stay in Cleveland while he's currently playing in an Eastern Conference final for the Cavaliers, the fact that you have to question his effort 3 or 4 separate times in his career as to whether or not he's actually tanking games. I mean, that's the difference between Jordan and LeBron James. It really is.
I completely disagree with that. Nobody on this show is questioning his
effort. That's you. That's not us. That's you. That's not us. We're not doing that.
No shot. Whoa. Okay. Whoa. Very defensive there. I did not say you guys are doing that.
No, but you said we're having this conversation. You're having this conversation. We're not having this conversation.
No, I'm saying the reason this conversation exists is because of that reason. You guys might not be having it. Other people are having it. And you ask Cavalier fans if they felt like LeBron James was giving max effort that final game at Boston when he took his jersey off as he was leaving the court and then decided to come down to Miami. And then you ask Heat fans if you feel like he was giving max effort in that Spurs final the last year in Miami. Ask them because those are the conversations that fans have.
Well, that's fine, but as Bill Parcells once said, Stugotz, when you start listening to the fans, pretty soon you're going to be sitting with them.
Yeah, but guys, no, but it's not just, listen, I've had the conversations. I've heard Stephen A. Smith on his radio show say that LeBron James might not want to make it back to the finals because he doesn't want another finals loss on his resume because he knows he can't beat Golden State.
Just because Stephen A. says that doesn't mean I'm going to believe it. I think that's ridiculous. I think that is a ridiculous thought for anybody, not you, for anybody to say. I think it's ridiculous to question that. I mean, it's amazing how people want to get in the minds of players and say, oh, yeah, he did this because of that. Oh, yeah, he did this because of that. How many times has Jordan been down 0-2 or 0-3 in a series? Never, going to a finals or in a finals. And I'm not saying that when you get there, you should, and I don't think he tanked them, but we're talking about the effort. I get Jordan's never been in that position. That could be a feather in his cap as well. But just because somebody says it doesn't mean it's true. I mean, all of a sudden we think LeBron doesn't want to go to the finals because he's afraid to lose another finals? To me, that's a joke. I would disagree with anybody who said that.
Mike, but it might be a joke to you and it might be a joke to Trey, but it's not a joke to other people.
But that doesn't mean it's true. But that doesn't mean it's true.
It doesn't mean it's true, Trey. I'm not saying that it's true, but the fact that conversation exists amongst people who are credible, not me, Stephen A. Smith and others. The fact that that conversation is out there is the reason that people will never hold him up to Jordan.
Well, the fact
that's all I'm saying.
No, I know. All we're saying is the fact that it's out there is that people have platforms and they need to fill 4 hours.
Yeah, I would put that more on the people saying it than the actual realistic conversation. I think it's
do you really believe that he wasn't giving max effort in that game against Boston in Game 2? Do you really believe that?
Do you really believe that if he won a third consecutive NBA championship with the Miami Heat that he would have went back to Cleveland?
Don't answer my question.
Because I'm telling you right now, there's no way he goes back to Cleveland.
Answer the question.
Answer the question. Do you believe he wasn't giving max effort in Game 2 when he had a 40-point triple-double, the third most in NBA history, passing Oscar Robertson?
Yes. Defensively, yes. I do not think the greatest player in the world, maybe the greatest player we've ever seen. Yes, I do not think he was giving max effort on the defensive end. No, I absolutely believe that he was not playing as well as he could have played defensively.
All right, we'll just agree to disagree.
Before. LeBron
we'll just agree to
doesn't
disagree.
let guys get to the rim. He doesn't do that, guys.
We'll just agree to disagree.
He doesn't allow guys to walk down the lane.
Moving on. Okay. We'll just agree to disagree on that because I think that's insane. Stugotz with us, and we're happy to have him.
Yes,
Let's be clear about that. From the Dan Le Batard Show with Stugotz. Let's move on to another superstar who people are questioning, but this time not about his heart and what he's thinking, but actually how he's playing, and that's Steph Curry. It's pretty clear that the Rockets are targeting Steph defensively, and he's only made 1 3-pointer in each of the first 2 games. Do you think he's 100% right?
No, I don't. This is not the Steph Curry that we've become accustomed to over the last couple of years. This is the Steph Curry that we've become accustomed to when he looks injured, because he's been injured in a couple of postseasons here in the past couple of years. I don't think Steph Curry is right. The jumper's off. The leg appears to be hurt. He's not. I heard the guys talking about it last night on the telecast. It just doesn't seem like he has, some spring, the normal spring that he has in those legs and going to the basket. So no, and they're picking on him, Mike, as you pointed out earlier. They are absolutely trying to pick on him defensively, and they should, because clearly he's not right. So they're just trying to get plays where it's Harden or Eric Gordon or Ariza or Paul or whomever one-on-one with Steph Curry. And so no, I don't think he's right. I still think the Warriors win the series. Listen, all the Rockets did last night was what they were supposed to do, right? We've been waiting for the series the entire year, and the Rockets have been the best team by far in basketball the entire year. So the Rockets did what they were supposed to do last night and got that series back to 1 game apiece. I still think the Warriors are going to win it, but Steph Curry is definitely not right, guys. Like, that's not a Steph Curry you guys have seen before, right?
No, it's not even close. And the thing is, Stu, with Steph, he doesn't have to score, but so often the offense goes through him, and that's what gets everybody going. And the offense isn't going through him right now, setting everybody else up. It was just weird. That was only, I think, the second time ever in a postseason game with Durant and Curry. They only had 2 guys in double digits, and
Right.
I mean, Durant, it's really funny. They're also basically playing the LeBron rules here. We'll let Kevin Durant get his 38 and 37. We're just going to try and smother everybody else.
Yeah, and so it worked, but in Game 1 for the Warriors, it worked because Klay Thompson gave them a monster game. So Steph Curry was allowed to be the 3rd best player offensively on that team in Game 1. In Game 2, that didn't happen. They didn't really get that second score. They didn't get the big game from Klay Thompson or Draymond Green or really anyone else. So it was Kevin Durant on his own, and Chris Paul couldn't deliver as the second option last night.
All right, so I think this has actually worked perfectly into our leadership conference. We just
Hold on, what?
Yeah.
Golic and Wingo leadership retreat.
So we basically just spent about 5 minutes or so yelling at one another.
Yep.
So this leadership conference and retreat will help, whether it's a rope course, whether it's the
drinking,
the golf, whatever it is, we think it's going to help everybody and help us all come together. So your thoughts about any chance you get kicked out of Pinehurst too for the way you may golf or act on this trip, and how much you're looking forward to this?
I'm very much looking forward to this. I am proud of you guys. What's the deal? Am I playing with one of your listeners? Is that what's happening here? Am I playing with your listeners, or am I playing with our listeners? What is going on here?
I'm assuming they're all listeners. We're just doing it that way. Okay. You're playing with a listener. How about that?
That's right. We're just going to play golf at a really nice course.
There it is.
Is that what we're doing? Yes.
By the way,
okay. I am in.
I feel like we have done the most Stugotzian thing of all time, because it was a conversation we were having a couple of weeks ago about, hey, we'll go play golf together. And I said, let's get somebody to pay for it. And you said leadership retreat. And then Pinehurst rolled in. So I think there's a little Stugotz in all of us that made this come together.
Yes.
Hey, guys,
listen,
let's not forget this is a leadership retreat. Talk a little bit about the name game.
No.
We are. We're going to name our foursomes.
Yeah. We're going to name our carts.
Okay. Yeah.
And we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Now, Stu,
all right, I'm not going to get Mike. I'm not going to get kicked out because of the way I play golf. Okay, I play golf fine. I might get kicked out for other things because just drinking and being loud and being obnoxious and giving hot takes about LeBron James and accusing of tanking games. And people might not like that, and they might kick me out for those reasons. But my golf game will be on point. I promise you. I'm very much looking forward to this, and I'm proud of you guys because we talked out an idea. You guys followed up on that idea. I talk about a million ideas. I never follow up on any of them. So the only way this thing gets done is because of you and Trey. I'm very proud of you guys. Thank you. This is great, Trey.
Yes.
Trey, we're playing Pinehurst, man.
Let's go, baby. And I have to ask, because I heard this on your show, and it was awesome. You got the table for 8 at that restaurant in Boston on Mother's Day at your specific time, 12:30. Did you actually call them and say, we're actually not coming, or did you just leave that matzo ball hanging out there?
Oh, no, like at the end, we always have to ask, we have to ask permission at the end to air those things. Yeah. And, so at the end, I kind of break it to him like, hey, I'm not really coming to your restaurant. I don't need the reservation. Thanks for being so playful. We'd like to air this thing if you guys are okay with it. It's great promotion for the restaurant. So,
it's so great.
Yes, eventually I tell them. Eventually I do not leave them sitting there on the busiest, although I should do that.
That would be very Stugotzian. That would be very Stugotzian.
Yeah.
Yes. Table for 8, 12:30 brunch, Mother's Day, prime time, baby, and then I never cancel it. Yes, that next year I will do that.
Unreal.
I got to tell you, I heard that whole thing.
It's unreal.
It was freaking hilarious.
You're the best at it, and I have to shower after it every single time.
It was well done. Stu,
thanks, Stu.
Appreciate you, pal. We'll see you next week. I mean, that was.
Let's stop fighting, all right?
No, we're not fighting. We're talking. We're airing our grievances.
Peace,
not fighting.
Peace, love, golf, beer, retreat.
There you go. Hashtag Pinehurst.
Okay. It's always an interesting conversation. And people, it's not Jordan. I don't know why we always bring Jordan into it. Jordan is a great player.
Yeah, he was.
One of the greatest of all time. Yeah. But boy, some of the stuff going on with LeBron just blows my mind. Hey everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. Rocket Mortgage is simple, allowing you to fully understand all the details and be confident you're getting the right mortgage for you. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLS, consumeraccess.org number 3030.
I'm a one-trick pony. Literally. I show up at kids' parties and act cute. That's pretty much it. So excuse me for being bitter. When Geico says not only could we save you money on car insurance, but we do more. Like give you 24/7 access online, over the phone, or even via our award-winning mobile app. Well, ooh la la. Aren't they multi-talented? Hey, I said organic carrots.
Geico. Expect great savings and a whole lot more.
Golic and Wingo on ESPN Radio and ESPN News, presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and we are reminding you that 30 for 30 podcast returns next Tuesday, May 22nd. This season takes you deep into the complicated world of Bikram yoga. Its founder used connections with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, John McEnroe, and others to spread his hot, aggressive yoga to the world. But Bikram's guru status enabled increasingly dark behavior. It's a story you have to hear to believe. Subscribe to 30 for 30 podcasts in the Listen tab of the ESPN app or on Apple Podcasts.
I've done Bikram
too.
Yeah, my wife and I did it for a while. Didn't really enjoy it.
Well, it's I don't know if it's something you enjoy, but I think you feel better about yourself once you do it.
But I do like to switch things up. And in Bikram yoga, there is no switching things up.
Boy, you're not kidding.
There's 26 poses, and that's it. The exact same every single time.
Although I will say that depending on the instructor, it's 20-something, I think. Depending on the instructor, it changes dramatically. For example, we went to a couple of different places, and one, like if you weren't lying the right way and they were all over you.
Yeah.
And then another place we went, they were like, okay, if you can do this, fine. If not, take a break, blah, blah, blah. And that was a lot easier because some of those ones I felt like I was in boot camp.
Yeah.
And I don't want to feel that way as I'm trying to get into a peaceful, stretchy
You definitely
thing.
sweat a lot, that's for sure. Yeah.
You purify.
That'll sweat out the toxins.
Which is exactly what we're referring to. Well done, Mike Golic. Because 20 years ago today, as we hop in the DeLorean with our flux capacitor, we go back in time to look back at David Wells' perfect game on May 17th, 1998. Here's how the call sounded on the Yankees radio network with the pipes of John Sterling.
The 0-1, swung on, he's going to get it, popped up to right field, O'Neill near the line, he makes the catch, David Wells has pitched a perfect game, 27 up, 27 down. Baseball immortality for David Wells. And the Yankees win. The Yankees win.
That was the call after one of the most unusual situations ever, because David Wells came into that game against Minnesota with a 4-run record, but a 5.23 ERA, because he'd been giving up tons of home runs, 10 home runs in 52 innings. And we're celebrating the 20th anniversary of this because the story behind it is absolutely fascinating. David Wells had gone to watch Saturday Night Live the night before the game on Sunday. And let's just say he didn't stop at going to see the show. The show ends at 1 o'clock in the morning. And so he had been a regular at SNL. And there's a great story on the website complex.com talking about the oral history of David Wells' perfect game and all the players that were involved in the perfect game and what happened the night before, including Marcia Klein, who was the producer of Saturday Night Live. And Wells said, I was leaving SNL show the night before, and Marcia Klein's like, hey, why don't you come to the after party? And I said, not this time, I'm pitching tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he tried to get out of it.
He tried to get out of it.
Sure.
And then he said, and she went on to say, you have to come. You know, Dennis Rodman came once, and the next day was one of his best games of his career, 23 or 25 rebounds. And then David went on to say, I can't say she called me a, but I can't say she didn't.
Yeah.
So I went, and I looked.
She goaded him into it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I look around, and there's Jimmy Fallon and Will Forte and Fred Armisen, and one thing led to another. Mm-hmm. One thing led to another. It turns out he never really went to bed that night. He went to the Saturday Night Live party, stayed up. He says, I think I got home around 5:30. Probably got 2.5 hours sleep. I knew this was not good, so I just tried to stay away from everybody. Was worried someone might get high off the fumes. I had consumed a lot of alcohol. I was a dummy, but I just got caught up in the moment. He then, in his own autobiography called Perfect I'm Not, said he pitched that perfect game, quote, half drunk, with bloodshot eyes, monster breath, and a raging, skull-rattling hangover.
Yeah, I mean, it's what led us to our question today at Golic and Wingo. What's the best thing you've done with a hangover? Because a lot of us have been there for one reason or another.
Been there, done that.
This is amazing because you get that point for him of, I don't want to go. I know I shouldn't go.
Right.
I try and say I can't go.
Yep.
To which if the answer to when he said, and I'm pitching tomorrow was, oh, okay, good luck tomorrow, he probably leaves.
Right.
But
Come on, Dennis Rodman did it. He played great. Come on.
And he gave in. Obviously, he gave in.
You know what? He gave in to the devil's advocate, the fake version of etymology yesterday, the fake version.
And from, again, you being a page at NBC when you first got into this business and being at those parties, no, you don't dip a toe into them.
No.
You jump in feet first.
When you go in all the way.
Yeah.
Again, when my first job was a page at NBC, you gave guided tours of the building and all that kind of stuff. But when you work Saturday Night Live, you got to go to the cast party.
Right.
So the show ends at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then people mill around on stage. Hey, thank you. Great show. Great show. They talk to people. What are you doing? When are you going? All this stuff. Then they go to their dressing room. They take off their makeup. They change into whatever they want to wear to the party. So most people don't start getting to the party 1:45, 2 o'clock in the morning. And people start trickling in for the next hour, hour and a half. So the party really doesn't get going until 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then at that point, you're all in. And you're like, well, it's 3 o'clock. People are here. The music's pumping. The libations are flowing. We might as well just ride this thing out. And I've been to a couple of those where it was about 5:30 in the morning when you decide to leave and you walk out the door of the establishment where the party was, and the sun hits you in the face, and you see people jogging, and you're like,
this is a mistake.
What have I done? This is terrible.
Yeah.
But I didn't have to pitch at Yankee Stadium the next day.
Well, I mean, but again, I think, you didn't have to pitch at Yankee Stadium, but we've all been in a situation where we're there and we're like, man, I need to get out of this. I need to get out of this. I need to leave. And then sometimes you hit
I'll just have one more.
Yeah, but then sometimes you hit a point where you start asking yourself that question.
Yeah.
And obviously that happened to David Wells, but it all worked out okay. Obviously, outside of feeling horrific, the outcome was pretty darn good.
The best part, he talks about his bullpen session, and he said, before the game, my bullpen was horrific. Just threw 2 balls out of the stadium because I was so frustrated. I could not throw a curveball. I got to the point where I just quit throwing, and I said, that's it. So he knew, or he thought he knew, that he had nothing to give.
Yeah.
And he thought he was completely played, and yet he throws not only a no-hitter, but a perfect game.
Amazing.
27 up, 27 down. So David Wells, kudos to you. for doing the near impossible.
Yeah.
Is performing at your absolute best when you were feeling at your absolute
It's
worst.
something that you almost feel like you don't want to go wow to and say kudos to, because, you don't want people doing that. You don't want that message being out there. But, man, it's tough not to tip your cap to that.
No.
To say, okay, I put myself in this situation. I am in a bad situation, but I need to go make the best of it, and I'm going to try. Because we've all been there. I've been to practices that way when you know it's going to be an easier practice, and you end up being out with the guys, and, you have a little too many, and you really sweat it out the next day. But they have to pitch. They have to be the focal point to go out and be the starting pitcher.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tough call. And again, no doubt about that.
It was a hot day. It was a sunny Sunday afternoon.
Like the old alcohol sweats, man.
Ooh, I bet
he had to reek.
He had to go through 4 uniforms.
Yeah.
That's like you stumble into a class after a long night, and you have to take the test there because it's a final, and you're feeling bad, and you put your hat on when you go to class, and you look at the guys next to you, and they're like, oh, sorry, man.
Sorry, dude.
Sorry. Just the way it is. It's the way I had to get through this. I had to get the test. So David Wells, again, skull-rattling hangover, throws a perfect game 20 years ago today. All right, coming up, someone is putting NFL players to the test, and it's an unusual test and an unusual set of circumstances. We'll tell you about that.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
He made his AFC quarterback prediction. Now, I have the NFC predictions, but I can't give those away. I promised them I would not give them away.
Who's the Packers starter?
Hold on. Want me to give it away?
Just give us one. I dare you.
No, they're all Trey Wingo tomorrow. You got to tune in the entire Wingo and Golic show. Golic and Wingo show.
Aaron Rodgers.
No! No!
Oh, that's
Groundbreaking.
awesome.
Groundbreaking.
Sports Center brought to you by GNC. Ignite what's inside you, from building muscle to finding the best multis. Get the highest quality wellness solutions and supplements. Now buy 2, get 1 free for a limited time at GNC. Live well. We yelled a lot at Stu when he was
Well,
on. Not yelling at him about what he was saying.
We were heatedly having separate points.
Yeah.
We love Stu. We love Stu.
Without question.
He's coming with us to our leadership retreat.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he is.
What did I say? His what?
Golic and Wingo Leadership Retreat.
So we are very happy to have Stu with us on our journey.
Absolutely right.
We just had a disagreement.
We did.
And sometimes families have disagreements.
That's very true.
And
that's why we go to these experiences to build us back up.
That's why we need the leadership and have the team building to make sure we're all on the same page eventually. Speaking of all being on the same page, the new offensive coordinator of the Indianapolis Colts is doing a really fascinating thing to make sure the Colts all understand they're all on the same page and they're all in this together.
Yeah, Nick Sirianni, the new coordinator for the Colts. Offensive coordinator. He gives out tests to see how well players are grasping the system. Now, this is not new. There have been tests given out all the time. I took many, many written tests for our D-line. We would have a test each week before a game. So this is something that's done all the time. Now, the biggest difference, again, this coach was with the Chargers with Frank Reich, the head coach of the Colts now, comes from an education background. His mother and father were teachers. So he digs the test. But it's not just a test for position. Like wide receivers, you get a test. Running backs, you get a test. You get a test. You not only have to know in these tests your responsibility, but you have to know the responsibility of the 10 other players on offense. So if you're a running back, you have to know what the wide receiver is doing, the left tackle is doing, the right guard is doing. You have to know everybody's responsibility on the offense.
Yeah, basically, wide receiver Chester Rogers says we're not handicapped in this offense, and I feel like it's going to bring the best out of all our potential. It's putting players in position groups that they're good at. They're really using the right people the right way. T.Y. Hilton on a play needs to know what the left tackle is doing. He needs to know what tight end Jack Doyle is doing. He needs to know what everybody is tied in together. And as you said, this happens quite a bit. But when you were taking your tests as a member of the Eagles or the Dolphins or whomever, were you? It was about your group, right? It wasn't about what the other group is doing.
But I part of it is I mean, especially on blitzes, I would need to know, what linebacker, safety, the blitz. I knew what everybody's game. A part of my game had to be more intellectual because I wasn't the best athlete out there. So I did actually study what the others were doing. Now, to the point of knowing the cover or the corner coverage or the coverage of the safeties as well on pass plays, no, I'm not going to go that far and say on each play. I knew the coverage. I knew what the coverage was, and I know what coverages are, so I kind of knew what they were doing. But to sit there and know every person's responsibility, I could easily say I knew the front sevens all the time between the D-line and the linebackers because, again, if you have whole responsibility, you basically have to know where all the responsibilities are out there. So I did know a lot of that. But this is putting a lot on people. This is basically wanting your players to know everything that's going on. This is going to be a fast-paced offense, and they just want you to be able to dissect it quickly, know where you're supposed to be, what you're supposed to do, and have an idea of so you don't get out there and say, oh, I know what I'm supposed to do. But then kind of blank at, well, wait a minute. But if you know what this guy next to you or the guy in front of you is going to do as well, that can help you see the bigger picture of everything.
And Bill Belichick is legendary for doing things like this, not in a written test, but if you're walking around the facility and Bill runs into you, he will ask you about something that he has given you before, and you have to have the memory or you're in trouble. You have to remember it right away. Like, hey, what was that thing we talked about on the kickoff 3 weeks ago against so-and-so? He wants to make sure you are as tuned in as you can possibly be.
Well, and also he's a guy that likes versatile athletes to play different positions. So if you're going to play different positions, you have to know what you're doing at those positions. And that's true in other teams. It's not like the Patriots hold a patent on that. They're not the only team where other players play multiple positions.
The stories about Bill doing that are kind of legendary around the facility.
But most players do understand what's going on around them. Not to say that they know the responsibility of all 10 of the other players, but I would bet more players than you think know what everybody's doing on the field.
Okay, so here's a bigger question. It's about what everyone's doing on the team so everybody comes together. Do you think we would do well knowing what the hell goes on with everybody else around us?
I don't want to know what those guys are doing.
So it's a separate thing for you completely.
Ignorance is bliss.
Do you know, like, what if we tested you, like, what time does Devin Bubble Boy show up to work?
5 minutes before the show starts.
All right, I'm going to say that's not right. Would you like to take a second guess?
Well, the show starts at 6 Eastern. I say he gets here at 4:15.
All right, we're putting 4:15 as our official answer. Devin?
You gave me too much credit. 4:30.
4:30.
That's pretty close.
Pretty close.
That's not bad.
Let's see. What time does Cliff start cutting the music for the show?
Start cutting the music?
Yeah, what time does he start selecting the music that he wants to play? What time does he start going through the playlist?
Show starts at 6 Eastern, 5:50.
Cliff?
You were way over. About 4:50.
4:50. 4:50. So I think it was
really
4:50.
You know what?
Yeah.
You know how you called Trey a liar?
Yeah.
I'm calling you a liar. I don't believe you one bit.
For crying out loud!
No reason for me to lie. I'm just trying to help you guys
There's
out.
no reason for Trey to lie.
For crying out loud!
Yesterday, and you accused him of lying, so
Trey was lying.
For crying out loud!
Yanny.
I'm going to accuse Cliff of lying. I don't believe anything Cliff said.
Yanny. Look,
Cliff wanted Brett Brown fired.
He wanted Brett Brown fired. He wanted Jay Wright. And then Jay Wright came in. They said, I was just kidding. I want you to stay at Villanova. That was the worst part. The Stugotz was not strong in Cliff.
No.
Cliff, for crying out loud!
Yeah. Real quickly, Brettomology starts when for you for the week? How many days in advance? 5 seconds. 2 days. 2 days. Coming up, we'll head to Houston. Do we have a series in the Western Conference Finals?
Cliff, for crying out loud!
I just saved hundreds of dollars by switching to Geico. I feel like a whole new person.
Disclaimer, you will not become a whole new person. This is impossible. You might be able to join a gym or diet program, buy a new wardrobe, get hair implants, but your DNA and physical form will remain the same. Geico waives any and all liability if you attempt to become a new person, except a cyborg. If you choose to become a half-human, half-cybernetic organism with lasers for eyes, the Geico legal team would be cool with that, because, quote, laser eyes are pretty sweet. Pew, 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 end quote.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Time for an oil change? Head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. We've also got you covered when it comes to oil changes, thanks to Pennzoil Synthetic Motor Oil, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
Thursday morning, Golic and Wingo with you on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. We are presented by Progressive Insurance. All phone guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Mike Golic, Trey Wingo here. And I have to tell you, I think I owe you an apology.
Oh, well, okay. Bring it on.
Yeah, I feel bad about it. You know, you guys have gone on about Little Debbie snacks, this and that.
Yeah,
and I've had them every once in a while. They're fine, whatever,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you guys are talking way too much about this stuff. And then I went outside, and Little Debbie had, what'd they bring? They amalgamation.
It looks like the outside of it looks like the zebra cake.
Yeah.
But it's a zebra cake, but it's also the Swiss roll.
So basically the zebra cake and the Swiss roll had a baby.
That's exactly
and
right.
That's what that is?
Holy smokes.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Oh, my God, that's so good.
It's for real.
So I owe you, your entire family.
Yes, you do.
And I follow Little Debbie,
Yep.
but I underestimated their greatness.
It's incredible.
I want 700 of those.
There you go.
Which
If
means
you're
I'm going to
really
have to
sorry,
walk more.
Give me $20. I'll forget the whole thing.
You know what? I left my wallet at home.
Okay.
But anyway, those zebra cake rolls.
Worth it, aren't they?
Insane.
Very good.
Insane.
It's a nice little mix.
It is. By the way, Golic and Wingo reminding you that you should have a Little Debbie zebra cake roll. Also, the baseball season is underway. Tune in Saturday as Jose Altuve and the Astros host the Indians. Presented by Barbasol Razors. Coverage begins at 3:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio, ESPNRadio.com, and the ESPN app. Coming up in just a few minutes, Marc Spears of The Undefeated will join us.
Can I just say, I know we're going to get to what's starting. I'm getting so, we had the argument with Stu.
We had a discussion.
A discussion.
Yes.
And it wasn't us, Matt, it's about the talk out there of LeBron and his effort on defense. To the point now, this is how ridiculous it goes. Guinness dog. LeBron's putting in effort on D as much as my children do in keeping the house clean, or as close to the 0.0 grade point average you can get. Are you people just idiotic?
Yes.
I mean, seriously.
Yes.
You guys, people have picked out one play on defense, and all of a sudden he's the worst defensive player of all time. My God, it's unreal where this thing goes. Am I going to sit here and say he's the greatest defensive player ever? No. Am I also going to say during people's careers, greatest of greats, you can pick out a play or two of the thousands they've had where they've given less effort
that
than 100?
happens to every player in every sport.
It happens, but it seems that LeBron's the only one who does it now. And it's the only way. It just blows my mind of, you know what, he lacked effort on a couple of plays there too. Man, he gives about as much effort as my kids keeping the house clean.
Hot takers.
It's just stunning to me.
Look,
stunning.
When we had Stugotz on and he said he believes he can get that 40-point triple-double anytime he wants, he said that yesterday on Dan Le Batard's show with Stugotz, and you know what Dan said was, no, he can't. And I'm with Dan. He cannot get that anytime he wants, especially against a very good defensive team in Boston.
Right.
A very, very good defensive team in Boston. So you can pick out any play from any player in any game and say, man, he wasn't hustling there.
Well, no, and I agree. And I'm agreeing with the LeBron thing that you can pick out some plays. I think very few plays, but to now make it sound like he is the only one of the all-time greats that has ever done that in their career. And I'm sorry, I'm never buying the he didn't want to make it to the finals, they have another finals loss.
I don't believe that at all.
I just don't buy that one bit. Just my opinion.
And maybe he'll come out and say it, and if he does, we'll say, you know what, we were wrong.
There you go.
I will absolutely do that, but I don't believe that for a second, and we go on to what's trending. Well, there are three finalists for the MVP this year. Houston, James Harden, New Orleans, Anthony Davis, and that no-good slacking defender, Cleveland's LeBron James. They are the finalists for the MVP award. Philadelphia's Ben Simmons, Donovan Mitchell, and Boston's Jason Tatum are finalists for the Rookie of the Year
You know what's
award.
interesting is MVP, I don't think anybody thinks Anthony Davis is going to win it. And Rookie of the Year, nobody thinks Jason Tatum's going to win it. But if you included the playoffs, you may put those guys, Tatum still playing and playing incredibly well. And what Anthony Davis did before his team was knocked out was like, wow. I mean, that's the player. You know, he's starting to get nicked with those injuries that you hope he can stabilize that because you do believe he's going to win some MVP awards.
Yep.
But yeah, it is clearly down to Harden and to LeBron James. Again, they have the whole show of all the awards coming up at the end of June. Seems far away from the regular season, but I'm glad they give it their own night and make it an awards night. I think it's a very, very cool thing that the leagues do.
Yeah, it's very similar to what the NFL has done very successfully, by the way, the night before the Super Bowl, which is a Saturday night in prime time. They put together that award show called NFL Honors, and it's been very well done, very well received, and it's gotten a lot of attention. So kudos to the NBA for trying to climb on that business model.
Let's be honest. Of all four of the major sports out there, if you're going to do this thing, there's no doubt the best red carpet fashion is going to be the NBA.
Without question.
They are incredible dressers. No doubt about it.
At one point, they should all be forced to wear 1 year Jalen Rose's draft suit from 1993. The Joker suit is the greatest of all time. Every time I see it, all I can think of is, wait till they get a load of me. But then again, that'll be June 25th in Los Angeles when we'll find out whether it's LeBron or James Harden. With all due respect to Anthony Davis, you are the bronze medal winner this year. In the NHL, as they say in
hockey, let's do that hockey.
Golden Knights continue to have an unbelievably successful expansion year. They beat the Winnipeg Jets 4-2, take a 2-1 series lead. Jonathan Marchessault finished and started strong for the Vegas Golden Knights as he became the first player in NHL history score in the first and last 60 seconds of the same Stanley Cup playoff game.
So what's interesting is that last goal was an empty netter.
Yep.
That gave it the 6th goal. That put the game over.
Why is that significant?
Put the game over the posted total of 5.5.
Welcome to sports gambling, baby.
So you had two factions of people as that puck was sliding toward the empty net.
No! Yes! That's exactly what was going on. By the way, bookmakers were saying the same thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yes!
Absolutely.
Depending on where the line went.
But Mark's show, incredible. He leads Vegas with 8 goals, 9 assists this postseason. 17 points are one shy of matching the NHL record for the most by a player in his team's first playoff appearance. And the Jets have been getting, you put Marc-Andre Fleury, what he's been doing in the goal, in the second and third periods, game 3 shots, you're talking 56 shots for the Jets and only 36 for the Golden Knights. So they are really testing the goalie, Marc-Andre Fleury, in that second and third period, and he's been coming up big.
He really has, 33 of 35 saves. And again, they have a chance to do something that hasn't happened since the 67-68 season, which is an expansion team, make it all the way to the Stanley Cup Finals. However, this would be much more significant because that year, the entire Western Conference in the NHL, they were all expansion teams.
Yes, they were.
And the Blues went back-to-back years that year, or those 2 seasons, to the NHL Stanley Cup Finals. But again, when the entire conference was an expansion team, you knew somebody was going to do it. It was just a matter of when or who it was going to be. This year, in a much more difficult situation in the Western Conference, they are 2 games away from matching that feat. It really is outstanding what's going on with the Golden Knights. The opposite of outstanding is what's going on with the defending National League champion Los Angeles Dodgers. They were beaten by the Marlins last night 6-5, sending LA into last place in the NL West by percentage points and 10 games below 500 for the season. Mike, why is that significant?
Well, at the beginning of the season, the Dodgers were 9-2 to win the World Series, tied for best in Major League Baseball, and the Marlins were 500-1, worst in baseball. Now they sit here with the exact same
winning percentage
record. And amazing. Quickest to reach 10 games under 500 baseball history again after winning 100 seasons. They and now the 86 Cardinals are tied there. It's been amazing. What is Kershaw? I think 1-4.
Everything's been bad.
It's been
they
very,
just got Justin Turner back off the DL, and hopefully he'll get things going. But
it's been ugly for him.
Again, they were the NL champs. They got to the World Series. They had Game 7 in their ballpark last year and couldn't beat the Astros. And if you ask the Dodger fan about the postseason this year, you might get this reaction.
Playoffs? Playoffs? Playoffs?
He's like hitting the button.
I do love that one. Mm. Or you could talk about this losing streak, and the Dodgers fans might go,
that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
So we'll see if there's any chance for them to turn this season around, but history says it's probably not looking very good for the Los Angeles Dodgers. All right, we continue on Golic and Wingo. Glad you're with us on ESPN Radio and ESPN News. It was the game absolutely that the Houston Rockets had to have last night. They come out and smoke people in the second half, smothering everybody not named Kevin Durant in the 22-point win. Kevin Durant got his, but Steph Curry was a non-factor. And after the game, this is what Stephen A. Smith had to say after observing Steph Curry coming back from the knee and the ankle injuries this regular season and what he saw in the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals.
Steph Curry still doesn't look right to me. I'm watching him make plays and put in a decent amount of points, but he doesn't look like Steph Curry. The jump shot is not falling the way it customarily does. It looks like he still has some work to do in terms of getting himself back fully healthy. He doesn't look the same, and as a result, the Warriors don't look the same.
All right, so what do we make of Steph Curry and his performance or lack thereof through the first 2 games of the Western Conference Finals? For that, we bring in Marc Spears of the Undefeated. He's in Houston for the Rockets-Warriors series. Mark, thanks for being with us. We'll get to the Rockets in a second. They obviously did what they had to do, but what do you make of what people are saying about Steph Curry right now?
Well, I certainly wanted to ask him that concern. I've been living in Oakland, seeing him on a regular basis. No, he doesn't look the same. He doesn't look right. Even the way he runs doesn't look like the way he runs. We haven't seen that crossover. We haven't seen that pretty 3. And typically, if you're not feeling well physically, your jumper is going to be off because you're not getting up as high. It's all a whole. It's almost kind of like a dance move. Right. The way he shoots. And he swears up and down, man. Swears up and down that he's fine. That he's just not playing well.
Well,
that it's going to get better, but and I will say this: it's it just reminds me of 2 years ago. Because in Houston where he got hurt, we were in the same place. He talked to the same Reverend John Gray, who prayed for him 2 years ago. John Gray didn't pray for him this time, but, perhaps he should have. I've seen a lot of stuff, and you never get tired of watching it, and this is not what we're used to seeing.
No, this is not the Steph Curry that everybody fell in love with over the last few years. As Marc Spears of the Undefeated is with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. So people will say, well, what's the big deal with Steph Curry? I mean, Kevin Durant has 38 and 37. He's the go-to guy. He's the best player on that team. But Mark, as you know from watching the Golden State Warriors all the time, everything flows through Steph Curry. When he's on his game, he doesn't have to score 35 to make everyone else better, but he has to be accounted for, and that's what makes everybody else better on Golden State.
Yeah, there's this energy that comes with him that I haven't seen even in most superstars. When he's going, there's a different excitement in the room. There's a different excitement from his teammates. It's almost contagious. All of a sudden, they're hitting shots. They're playing better. There's more fast breaks. The offense is more wide open. It's just different. I mean, right now he's playing more like Del Curry, because he's just. But even Del Curry was hitting the jump shot, so maybe that's not right. It's just there's this certain electrifying thing that he brings to the court when he plays, and he's not close to that. So Steve Kerr kind of joked around saying he's only like 17% hurt and stuff. I just think that just based on being around Steph 2 years ago during the finals, where I know he was hurt during that Cleveland series and wouldn't really admit to it and couldn't get by big guys. I just think he holds it close to the vest, and perhaps he's not telling us everything.
So as this series is split one game apiece, 5 games left.
Hey, can I stop you real quick, because I got a question for you guys.
Sure, hit me.
Doesn't Durant even seem a little bit more offensively aggressive?
Well, yeah, he's had to be. I mean, he outscored the other 4 starters yesterday, 38-35. I mean, if he wasn't scoring, nobody was scoring. Yeah,
and I'm wondering if he's just a little bit more aggressive because he knows something's wrong with Steph.
It's a very good point. It's a very good point.
So on the other side of this with Houston, as they evened it up 1-1, 5 games to go, your confidence that they can consistently do what they did last night to get 3 more wins?
I don't know. They're going to be an adjustment by the Warriors. They were hitting everything. Their lives were up for grabs last night. They lose, going back to Oracle down 0-2. It's over. So it's funny because D'Antoni said they weren't going to change nothing, and then immediately they're moving the ball more. And they're super dangerous when they play that way, and then instead of just the isolation ball. And Eric Gordon and Clint Capella was right. They have to move the ball around against the Warriors to win. So the Rockets certainly look like the team that we thought they were, and I think it's going to be a long series.
We just went full Denny Green there. They are who we thought they were. So we're talking to Marc Spears of the Undefeated.
I messed the quote up.
There you go. It's all right. We all knew where you were going with that, and we understood it.
Yeah.
All that being said, Mark, do we really think that the Houston Rockets can win a couple of games at Golden State to make this a chance for them to win? Because that's what's going to have to happen, right? For them to win this series, they got to go to Oakland and take them down there not once but twice.
Yeah. Ask the Warriors, because the thing about them is their focus is always all over the place. They win a great game, and then they come back, and it's not the same. It's not the same focus. It's not the same team. I don't get it. I haven't seen that in too many great teams where you have a high and then a letdown. So to me, the Warriors beat themselves more than anybody else beats them. How they come into play, how ready they are. You saw it from the beginning that it was going to be a tough night because of the sloppy turnovers that they had and just throwing the ball all over the place. I'm like, here they go. Here's the focus issue. And it's been a problem all season. So how will the Rockets do? And this is no disrespect to, I think, a great team. It just depends on what Warriors team decides to show up every night.
So then, Marca, in the East, you have who I think is the most surprising team of these playoffs, and that's Boston, without two of their best players and what they're doing right now, up 2-0 on Cleveland. Your thoughts about Cleveland getting back into this series and what LeBron is doing as opposed to what his teammates are doing? How much is he to blame for what's happening, whether it's offensively or what some are calling lack of defense?
LeBron?
Yes. Well, that's Mark. Yeah, Mark.
Believe it or not,
I'm just
we're
telling
asking
you
this for a reason.
What people are saying out there, that LeBron is lacking on defense and taking plays off on defense, and that's a big part of the problem.
Man, who are these people?
There you go. Yeah.
I mean, he can't win the war by himself. You know, it was like Thor and the Avengers, man. The Hulk got to step up. You know, he's just.
So let's be clear. Let's be
so
clear.
Intelligently,
Mark. Let's be clear about this. You're not buying that theory that LeBron is taking too many plays off defensively.
No.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you. All right. Good. All right. Continue with whatever thought you were.
No disrespect for anybody feeling that way, but no.
Thank you. All right. Continue with what you're saying. Sorry, I just want to make sure we got that out there.
No, he just that coach, man. You gave him too much time to prepare for this series.
Brad Stevens, you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, he's a mastermind in preparation. I just felt like, you know, I actually picked Boston in 6, and I didn't get all enamored and fall in love with what happened against Toronto. They just have Toronto mentally.
Correct.
Cleveland does, so I didn't count that. But, you know, Brad Stevens is just a mastermind in getting teams ready. And, you know, we forgot about all the problems that Cleveland had before because they had such a great series against Toronto. I didn't forget. So I just thought that with Boston's toughness, their defense, and their just team basketball offensively, that it was going to be a problem. And sure enough, here we are. And, you know, LeBron can't beat him by himself.
He certainly can, as we're talking to Marc Spears of the Undefeated. So let's spin this forward to what happens whenever this season is done for the Cavs. The percentages you give LeBron James of staying in Cleveland and then leaving and going to find maybe a team that he can try and win a championship with.
You know, I paid very close attention to the draft lottery, and I thought that if they could get a top 5 pick, perhaps that would have played a big role in his decision. He shouldn't come out west. I know that. Like, you keep hearing the Houston rumors and perhaps Los Angeles. Like, if you're going to come out west, come to the Lakers, and you're doing this because it's for post-career. It's for, you know, all them old guys around the floor that make billions of dollars that have influence on the world. Come for that, you know, and know that you're just moving on. Otherwise, stay there. Yeah. Don't walk in that Western Conference door. Stay in the East.
But what percentages do you give him? What percentages do you give him that he stays or goes?
I say 50-50.
50-50 at this point. I think that might be a lot higher than what a lot of people are actually thinking. So.
I mean, but what's a good alternative?
Well, that depends on where other players go as well, and that's what's going to make the NBA offseason sometimes more interesting than the regular season. Mark, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thanks.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
Fellas.
Hey, everyone, Mike Golic here. Support for the Golic Wingo podcast comes from our friends at Rocket Mortgage. By Quicken Loans, chances are you're confident when it comes to your work, your hobbies, your life. Rocket Mortgage gives you that same level of confidence when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. With Rocket Mortgage, you can apply simply and understand fully so you can mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/Mikes. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, NMLSconsumeraccess.org number 3030.
Next. You're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie. This does look fun. Whee-oh! You melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more.
Our next guest, who is intimately aware, especially with the Cleveland Cavaliers. He's their former GM, David Griffin, co-host of SiriusXM NBA radio show Deals and Dunks at 1 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, and a former colleague of our current colleague, Amin Elhassan, and as a member of the Phoenix front office a few years ago. So, David, thanks for being with us. We'll do this. Dealer's choice. Would you rather start in the Western Conference or the Eastern Conference?
Well, since my walk-up music was Eastbound and Down, let's start there.
Done. Love it. Nicely done. So a lot of people, whether it's on Twitter or on their own platforms in certain areas of the media, are saying, well, one of the big problems for the Cleveland Cavaliers right now, especially in that Game 2 loss where LeBron had 40 points and a triple-double, was that he wasn't hustling on defense, and if he's not doing it, no one else in Cleveland is going to do it. When you hear that, what do you say?
Defensively, I would say that's an asinine assertion. I think if you watch the game and then you watch Marcus Smart even post-game in his comments, when LeBron took the shot to the chin that he did, he clearly wasn't the same when he came back. And at the moment that he takes that shot, because Cleveland is so dependent upon him to be the ball-dominant play creator for all the other pieces that really need to feed off of him, Boston identified that as when they really needed to pick up the pressure. And frankly, that's when they smelled blood in the water. You don't outscore a team 71-47 from that point on and have it be a function of LeBron's defensive side of the ball by itself. They just immediately exerted their will upon the Cavs on the Boston defensive end, and Marcus Smart was truly dominant down the stretch.
Why do you think there's such a lack of consistency on the Cavs with the other players, and who's going to be that guy that steps up outside of Kevin Love after LeBron?
Well, because the team was so heavily built around two ball-dominant play creators. And right now, Cleveland really only has one that they can count on. And I think that makes it very difficult because so many of the ancillary pieces on the roster are built to fit a team that has two play creators. It's sort of like Houston with Chris Paul and James Harden, and they have a bunch of ancillary pieces that feed off of that. Right now, Ty Lue can really only trust LeBron to put the ball on the deck and make a play. And I think because of that, what you may see him do is start to rely more on Kevin Love from the elbows, let him run some offense with dribble handoffs and different movements of that type that get Boston's defense moving side to side a little bit more, and don't let them just sit and load up on LeBron because, again, there's no one else creating thrust in the offense.
David Griffin with us, former Cavs GM. Okay, so make the case for Cleveland to get back in this series. We know what's not happening. What do they have to do? Who are the players that has to step up to make this a series by taking Game 3 when it goes back to Cleveland?
Well, I think in much the same way that they fought through the Indiana series, they're going to have to bring a mental fortitude to this that I think at times they have not, because I think they've taken things for granted that they were going to make it this far, and I think they tend to have some complacency. But I think they're going to need to rely on the guys that Ty Lue knows he can trust and that have won in the future. I think you're going to see even more of Tristan Thompson, which I think is really important for them against Al Horford. Al has not traditionally been as good against Kevin and Tristan together, even going back to when he was in Atlanta. So I think you'll see more of that. But I think more than anything else, they're really going to need to lock in on the defensive side of the ball. And they just haven't built a level of trust and chemistry on that side of the ball because they had so little continuity after they made all those trades. They had so many different injuries that kept their rotations from playing any meaningful minutes together. During this break, they really need to identify who they can trust on that side of the ball and just start to build out from there.
Knowing LeBron for the years you've known him, this is purely hypothetical or a guess on your part. Do you think he's decided where he wants to play next year, or I should say in Cleveland or elsewhere?
I don't at all think he's decided. I think he's so consumed with being the best basketball player on the planet, and he's so consumed with winning games in the here and now. I don't think he puts a lot of thought process into what comes next. We all do, and I think that's from a media perspective, it's certainly something where everybody thinks this is a foregone conclusion, and I just don't think it's even really been something he's spent a great deal of time on, and I would love to know what the decision's going to be made based upon, because that'd give us some direction on that, but I have no idea of that either.
So we'll see how that plays out going forward in the offseason. Again, he's still got a series he's trying to win, and that may turn around Game 3. But again, Boston's never lost a series in franchise history, 37-0, where they're up 2-0 in a best-of-7. David Griffin with us, former Cavs GM. Let's swing it out west. Look, the Rockets were great last night. They were great defensively. They smothered everybody but Durant. They played their kind of ball. As Mike D'Antoni said, sorry, we didn't change. We're going to do what we want to do. The question then becomes, David, as long as we don't think Steph is completely out of it and maybe a little more hurt than we're leading on, can they do that 3 more times against this team, especially when they have to do it in Golden State?
Well, first of all, I thought Mike D'Antoni's insistence that we are who we are and the amount of indignation he brought to the notion that they needed to do something different was sort of the equivalent of a bolo punch in boxing. He doesn't want you to see what the other hand is doing. We're not going to change. We're not going to change, but we're going to move an awful lot more on the weak side.
Yeah.
And we're going to cut P.J. Tucker through an awful lot more. And they didn't change who they are and what they do, but they tweaked it a little bit. And I think one thing that was really meaningful and has been all playoffs long, Trevor Ariza was on the floor. If you take all of the players that have played in the playoffs, if they've played 100 minutes or more, Trevor Ariza is number one among those players in plus-minus per 36 minutes. He's a truly significant player for them, and he picked up 5 fouls very early in that game. He was really a non-factor throughout because of the foul trouble. Trevor is really essential to what Mike wants to do, and you saw it last night. I don't know how many games someone other than Harden and Paul led them in assists throughout the season, but I would bet it's single digits. And last night, Trevor Ariza was tied with the lead with 6 assists. And so it's not just that he and P.J. Tucker totaled 41 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists, I think. It's that when the ball is coming to him, he's making the right read and the right play. And all year long, what Houston did was they were very ISO-heavy. They limited the number of passes they were throwing, which then limited the amount of turnovers they were going to create, which then limited the number of opportunities you were going to have to run against them. And then they would be a team that locked in on the defensive side and counterpunched. And that's what they got to do last night because they were so much more physical than Golden State. They just took Golden State out of all their actions. And I think Steve really made a point of mentioning that. And you can see him sitting on the bench during the first quarter when I think they had 7 turnovers through the first 5 minutes of the game with that look of, oh, boy, here we go again. They just didn't bring mental focus to the game last night.
Former Cavs GM David Griffin joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And so while you've seen many of the matchups with your team, the Cavs and Golden State, can you tell when watching Golden State when they're going to be off or what's happening on the floor that shows they're not going to have one of those nights?
Yeah, and I think you can see it really early. And all year long, I felt like they dealt with a level of complacency that they had never dealt with before. Steve talked about it very often. He couldn't get the team to show up and play with appropriate fear, as he calls it, which is a Popovich term. They obviously didn't have it last night, and you could see it, like I said, within the first 5 minutes, the number of turnovers they had. Golden State really tells on themselves from a mental focus standpoint with the amount they throw the ball all over the place because their offense is so precise, and when they're playing well, they are so incredibly fun to watch because that movement is truly unique. The guard splits they get from Steph and Clay, some of those triangle actions that Steve Kerr brought from his Chicago days, and then getting to watch Kevin Durant obviously end possessions in the way he does, they can be really special, and you can tell very early on when they're going to execute at that level and when they've shown up with the appropriate fear. And against a team like Houston, you don't just overcome it if you don't. That team's 51-5, I believe, now when Capella, Harden, and Paul all play together.
Yeah, they've been great together, so we'll see what happens in pivotal Game 3s for different reasons in both the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. David Griffin, former Cavs GM with us. We can't let you go without giving us a story about working with our colleague now, when you guys together were in Phoenix, Amin Elhassan. What was he like to work with? And you can be brutally honest.
So this will not surprise anybody who's enjoyed the hate hard concept of Amin Elhassan. But Amin was not somebody who was going to hold his tongue, and it didn't matter who was in the room and whose opinion he was stepping on, and most often it was my own. So I enjoyed it quite a bit.
So, hey, listen, those are the best kind of relationships. Golic and I in the breaks throw pies at each other. So we just clean up real fast. David, we appreciate you being with us this morning. Thanks so much. We'll see how it plays out this weekend.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, fellas.
It's a normal day. You're rushing out the door to get to work on time when suddenly, there it is, the dreaded service light. So what is it this time? Tire pressure? Low coolant? Time for an oil change? When it comes to service lights, head to Jiffy Lube. We've got you covered. Drive in today and make the switch to Pennzoil. Ask for Pennzoil Synthetics, getting you back on the road in a jiffy. Jiffy Lube. Leave worry behind.
With the first pick, the Cleveland Browns select Baker Mayfield.
He thinks he's invincible. The NFL will bring you back to earth very quick.
You know, I feel like the Browns have helped so many other teams find their franchise quarterback. Browns fans are very upset.
Oh, they did it again.
SportsCenter is brought to you by Gum Out. Gum Out Regain Complete Fuel System Cleaner safely removes carbon deposits to help restore engine performance and maximize fuel economy. Try Gum Out Regain today at AutoZone. Buy one, get one free instantly for a limited time. Gum Out, science in, performance out.
Golic and Wingo with you now. I hadn't said a word yet. You know what I say to that?
Cliff, for crying out loud!
Oh, you definitely tried to say a word right there.
Cliff, for crying out loud!
I'm sorry, Cliff, were you saying something? You want to say something?
Yes.
Cliff, for crying out loud!
All right, Golic and Wingo with you. Listen, we have breaking news in the NFL.
Yes.
We'll get to it, but more importantly, Brett wants to break into the show. So, Brett, you have a story for us.
Yeah, well, we're talking about all these hungover feats.
Yes. Off of David Wells, 20 years ago, perfect game, completely overhung.
And I mentioned to Stanzik, so the day after my 22nd birthday, I was in Vegas.
Yeah.
I was at the pool at Caesars.
Nice.
I had imbibed quite a few.
Of course.
And that was when I got the call that I was offered a job at ESPN.
Oh, okay.
So I accepted the job when I was hammered.
Yeah. And so now you regret it, clearly.
Yeah, you know.
Wow.
See, be careful the decisions you make when you're a little overhung because you're not thinking straight.
I think one of my worst ones, and I'm glad there were no, like, where we are in the social media now of today of the cell phones and the pictures and all that, is it was my 21st birthday. I was at Notre Dame and went out and celebrated it, you know, the way you celebrate a 21st birthday. And lo and behold, at about 4:30 in the morning, I'd realized that everybody I was with at this establishment had left.
Okay.
And I was alone.
Okay.
And I was, you know,
not thinking straight.
I was celebrating my 21st birthday. So where I was only about a mile or less walk back to campus in my dorm. So I walked back. Now, my birthday's in December. Okay. So there was a couple inches of snow on the ground. Yeah. So as I was walking back about 4:30 in the morning, I went over like a little bit of a hill close to campus, and I slipped and I fell, and I was laying on my back, and I looked up into the stars, into the darkness.
Yeah.
And I closed my eyes.
Oh, no.
And I opened them, and it was light out.
You fell asleep.
It was about 4 hours later. I was sleeping in the snow.
Were you hypothermic?
No, I wasn't. There was snow on the ground. I guess it must not have been that cold, or my body wasn't feeling any of it.
You had a lot more Bartolo.
You want to talk about
then.
the moment of talking about not being around cell phone cameras and stuff. What that could have been like? I mean, I was going into my, I finished my senior year at Notre Dame, and I'm laying there for like 4 hours on this hill. Yeah, woke up, opened my eyes, and it was light out, and thought, oh my God, everything on my back was like clothes were like frozen.
That's
and such.
fantastic.
Yeah.
You ever seen the movie Euro Trip?
No.
Okay, well, it's a very funny movie about this guy who keeps doing stupid things drunk and traces this girl all over Europe. But every time he wakes up after a hangover, he's got the spit coming out of his mouth.
Yeah.
The first line, he's, I'm never drinking again.
Yeah, till the next time.
I'm assuming that's what you said when you fell asleep.
Yeah.
I'm never drinking again.
I didn't say that.
We've got breaking news. And it's the best kind. Adam Schefter tweeting this just moments ago will become official later today. The team to be on Hard Knocks this summer, the Cleveland Browns.
Wow.
With Baker Mayfield.
Wow.
So, first of all, I'm going to say this. This is going to be the Baker Mayfield show. Let's be clear about that. That's what's going to happen.
It is. And second, I love the show.
I love the show.
Love the show. I would hate to be on a team that has the cameras around.
Well, let me ask you this. We know Baker, right?
Yeah.
Baker's not one to shy away from the cameras. He did that own Behind Baker 6-part webisode series leading up to the draft. His Instagram, as Louis Riddick used to say, is a very interesting follow. Some of the things that he posts there. Is this good news for Baker Mayfield or maybe bad news for Baker Mayfield?
We know what Baker's going to do. Baker's going to be himself, I'm sure. And the cameras will do the show. They're going to do exactly what they should be doing.
Right.
Is during these things you find out who the characters are, and that's where the cameras go a lot.
This camera's going to Baker Mayfield.
And
Let's be clear about that. Because that's what they want it to go.
That's what they want it to go, and then it's going to be up to Baker on how he handles it. Starting at the beginning of training camp, Baker's not going to be the starter.
Right.
So you're talking about one of the focal points being, now they do it as well. They follow a lot of players, especially ones that get cut, because that can be a hard thing to watch as well.
And they pick out one or two guys that think they may make the team, and that's the underdog story trying to get there.
Baker's certainly going to be at least the backup, if not third string, going into training camp. We'll see where he ends up coming out of it. We have no idea. And the camera will be on him a lot. So it will be very interesting on how he wants to deal with this. But, Baker is a personality. There's no doubt about it. And that's exactly what the cameras are hoping for. And listen, the Browns agreed to this.
Well, kind of, yes and no.
Yeah. If every team says no, the league's going to pick somebody.
And the way they do it is, if you have certain qualifications, you're ruled out of it. And the Browns didn't have any of those qualifications.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure they agreed to it, or they were told this is the way it's going to be.
So either way it was, the cameras are going to be there, and they're going to have to deal with them. And it'll be interesting on how all the players want to deal with it. But you're right.
Yeah.
The cameras will zero in on Baker Mayfield.
I'm wondering right now how Hugh Jackson and John Dorsey are going to say, okay, this is what we want to see. This is what we don't want to see.
Mm-hmm.
It will be interesting. I can promise you that. All right, coming up tomorrow on Friday, we got NBA PA Executive VP Michelle Roberts, a royal announcement, Jason Terry, love it or shove it, Jason Witten, it looks like, and National Pizza Day.
Yes!
What could be better?
Woo!
And one thing.
Cliff, for crying out loud!
Next, you're holding up the line, ma'am.
What did you say?
You're next in line for the water slide, ma'am. Feet forward and enjoy the ride.
Okay, dearie, this does look fun. Whee-oh, you melted me. I've melted.
The Wicked Witch of the West on a water slide? Surprising. What's not surprising? How much you could save by switching to Geico.
See what you've done. Oh!
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or